and the ideas and collaborating, and it's just like, all right, yeah, let's do this. That sounds great, you know? So right now it's really been about also finding balance for me, realizing that I'm going to need to stay very grounded and find balance while I'm doing all these great things, you know?
Yeah.
And I just want to welcome everyone that's joining us right now. Laura, Specs, Lindsay, and Monty, thank you so much. Love having you here. And if there's anyone that has any questions, please feel free to raise your hand. I don't know how you feel, Devin, but I want people to feel comfortable as to be able to join.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
There's no hierarchy
Yeah,
here.
no hierarchy at all. So don't be afraid to hop on in and speak away. If you have any questions, we can dive right into it.
And if not, Devin, I would love for you to just introduce yourself and just let everyone that's in here. Alex, welcome. Love that you're on here as well. Alex is also very much into breath work, so I would love for him to also join the stage. But Devin, I would love for you to just jump in and tell us a little bit more about who you are. You know, you and I connected on Instagram, and I just see you and admire you for the work that you do. I know that you are, I look at you as like this breathwork guru. And I just started getting into breathwork this year more, kind of like in the summertime, I would say, where I started becoming more intentional with it. And I feel like I still am almost like, I would consider myself still a beginner. I feel like there's so much more for me to learn. So I love that I'm here with you, because I feel like you have so much knowledge that you could share, and that would just serve so many people, you know?
Yes, for sure. So I am the pioneer of Alchemical Breathwork. It's a mixture of Bigu practices mixing with sacred geometry and literally how Nikola Tesla viewed the human body. And the special thing about alchemy is its practices to be utilized in everyday life, not just a sit-down session. And I've been blessed to work with people from all walks of life, in different professions, all the way to giving birth to different to different types of mothers, if you will. Even if they're doing like home pregnancy and doing it with less pain, by the way, and doing it the conventional way through the medical industry and Western practices. But I've been truly blessed to be given a platform like Instagram, YouTube, you name it, and Alchemy Breathwork is growing in a certain point, and the main point about alchemy as well is to share breath consciousness beyond breathwork. That's really going to be a book that will be pretty thick coming out. That'll be like my 7th book, technically speaking. And I see Casey in here, sister, is also into breathwork. So I would love to dive in with everyone here and have a convo going.
I love that. Thank you. And I feel like you mentioned, breathwork could go in so many ways and help so many different kind of people, right? So often we forget how powerful we really can be when we start just really bringing back all that attention to ourselves and to our body, to our mind, refocusing that attention. And that's really where the power lies, all within us. So, yeah, let's dive in. Karen, thank you for joining. Casey, thank you for joining. It's a pleasure to have you ladies on here.
Yeah, Casey just texted me. She's not in a quiet place right now. I think she's doing baby duties right now. I could be wrong, Casey, but I just got your text. Yeah, so let's dive into it. Alchemical breathwork. Eve, where do you want to start? Because you're not too privy of what alchemy does provide, or uh, the intention behind it. So if you have any questions, let's start with a convo there, and let's see how deep we go into it. We can also talk about fasting. We can also talk about lifestyle choices and dive into how breath also affects it.
Absolutely. So I think that that would be a great way to start. Um, if we want to start with the alchemy breath work and how that works, how it differentiates it from different other types of breath work, and maybe the benefits of it for those who don't know and just want to know more.
Yeah, so with alchemy, we only utilize the nose, literally 99.9% of the time. There is one point where we do utilize the mouth, and that's with organ breathing. I'll dive into that a little bit later, if anything. And it's an interesting concept dealing with the fact that we are really electrical beings when it comes to the carbon factor that we create. And going into utilizing the nose, that's the only way to produce nitric oxide. And literally, when you strengthen the sinuses as times goes by and doing this type of breath work, mental clarity will start to become pretty prevalent. Attachment to certain cravings, versus in terms of smoking, food cravings, if you will. This will really help people who is trying to shift whatever type of diet they're trying to shift to. I like to say live it instead of diet. Whatever live it they're trying to shift to, it helps in that manner, because we utilize them out to eat, drink, and you name it, attach ourselves to the stories we tell ourselves in different ways. And the more you utilize the nose, the more you have access to opening the sinuses in many different ways beyond what you ever would have imagined. And when you do that, that starts to bring up, it gets rid of the fog within certain parts of the cerebral cortex. And the sinuses is not just one little part of your nose, it goes really all the way up to the middle part of your brain, which is not connected to, quote unquote, any organ in the body as well. It's really connected to the gland, aka the pineal gland. And if we were to look at the holographic universe or the electrical universe as it is, you can literally see that the pineal gland, one can say, is, quote unquote, infinite consciousness, and amplifies manifestation in that manner as well.
Wow. First, let me just start by saying I love how you are so. You did do that thing with your language where you shifted and you said, I don't like to call it diet, I like to call it live it. I think it's so important when we start realizing that the words that we use, also impact, right? So I just want to commend you on that. And, something that has intrigued me lately, I just didn't know that it was called, or maybe, I don't know if this term, alchemical breathwork is a term that you came up with, or is it something that is just the way that type of breath is called? But I've been wondering lately as to what the difference is with breath work, why sometimes, most often it's just breathing in through the nose and often it's exhaling through the mouth. And I find that for me, I don't know, I find it so much better when I focus more on breathing just out of my nose. And I wondered what the difference was. So thank you for actually clarifying some of that. But I do find that it allows me to feel different when I just focus on breathing out of my nose intentionally when I'm doing breath work. It allows my body to feel almost in a state of, it's just like this deeper state.
Yeah, because if you were to literally cut open your head in half, you can literally see a tube going straight to the brain versus the mouth that doesn't have that tube. So in terms of intake of oxygen, there's a lag when it comes to the mouth versus the nose. The nose, it's a straight electrical connection, if you will. I'm at that point where I can just take a regular inhale, and I can feel the vibratory resonance that it's doing to my body. And that takes time. It's like building a muscle. And for some people, it may be uncomfortable breathing with the nose because, you know, the saying goes, if you don't use it, you lose it. And that applies to breathing in itself. I literally helped people with even a deviated septum, people that have surgery with the nose, and people who have to wear a mask for work or whatever. When you have efficient breath work, no matter if you're wearing a mask, that is the main filter of the body. So when that filter is at 100%, you could be in quote-unquote toxic situations, if you will, and really speed up healing, because that vibratory resonance connects with the brain at a faster level versus the mouth.
Wow. Very, very interesting. Does anyone have any questions that they would like to ask? Is anyone familiar with breath work? If you would like to share what your experience has been, this would be a perfect time. Feel free to raise your hand. If not, we will keep going. And we have Kara that would like to speak. Hi, everybody. Thank you for allowing me to speak. I figured I would share an experience that I had. So I traveled to Costa Rica last year to do plant medicine. And while I was there, we were doing some breath work. I believe it was transcendental breath work. I think that's what it was. And it actually can take you to a place kind of like plant medicine can, like a psychedelic. And it actually did. During this breath work, I actually felt like, this might sound crazy, but I felt like it was kind of like a rebirth. So yeah, that was actually the first time I had an experience with meditation, and that's what happened. So yeah, breathwork can just be super powerful. Kara, let me ask you, once you had that experience, did you continue with the breathwork after that, or was it something that you look to kind of expand on since then, or what has your experience been since then? So since then, I haven't practiced any certain type of breath work, but I think in that moment I really realized how important my breath was, and it actually made me think, my whole life I feel like I've been shallow breathing. I don't think I ever used my actual breath as a tool for healing. And so ever since then, I'm just so aware of my breathing. And, if I'm in pain, I definitely breathe into my body a little more. And, so I feel like it taught me a lot about myself. But I mean, during the pandemic, I haven't done anything. But after that, I did go to meditation and breathwork courses and stuff like that. But, this year it's been hard. Yeah, no, I'm totally with you. I think that the only thing that really helped for me as far as thankfully being able to have the technology to be able to connect with others who had been doing this work longer and be able to join in on Zooms or people doing lives, things like that, to be able to continue different practices, which has been nice. But I agree with you, it's 100% true. So often I realized, actually it was this year that I realized, wow, you know what, all the time that I felt like I was under stress, I would catch myself just, even a year ago I was working in corporate America and I found myself being very stressed at work, and often I realized that it was because I wasn't really breathing. And this just started to really affect my health. I felt this tightness in my chest. It affected my mood. It affected everything. And, now you fast forward, and once I started learning more about breath work and more about meditation, I was like, wow, I've really been living almost in this fight or flight state that it just became so normal to me that, I didn't even realize, because we just normalize things that, it ends up becoming a habit. We think this is just the way I feel, and when you start learning about these practices, it's really a way to just awaken yourself in so many different ways,
And that's also, I want to touch on that as well. Most of the time when you find yourself in those panic moments or the anxiety, you'll notice you're most likely holding your breath, right? And that's one thing we don't do in alchemy breathwork. We don't hold our breath at all. I focus more on the parasympathetic rather than getting into fight or flight. Because there's some points when people are doing this type of breath work only with the nose. They might feel, oh, I feel tired. It's not that you feel tired. It's just the fact that you have never been this calm and resonating with this amount of calmness of energy, and they find themselves, the more consistent they do it, it becomes evident that that's not tiredness. That's a level of reserved energy within your body of the parasympathetic that you have access to, that you had access to all this time. The more you heal, the more you can exert, and when you do that, you literally become superhuman, and it's a really powerful practice.
Yeah, I love that. That sounds great. And actually, I think that's what the transcendental meditation, like that type of breath work, it actually puts you in that, like, to me, it felt like it put me in a fight or flight type of feeling, and then it was like bliss. So I don't know, I don't know what that means, but that's what it felt like. It felt like the beginning of, like, almost like a panic attack, and then it was like completely blissful afterwards.
Yeah, so when you breathe in that manner, there's a certain spike, and there's a nice come down, so to speak. When you're breathing in the manner of just the nose, no holding of the breath, it's an interesting ripple effect. That's like the best way I can describe it into your quote-unquote daily life. That is the main point of what I want to bring up. And it ripples right into the day, because as long as you're aware of it, you most likely should be breathing with your nose. And the muscle fibers that you created doing the alchemy breathwork, whether it be 3, 6, or 9s, that pattern that you created with the nose, those muscle fibers, when you go back into breathing regularly, it'll follow into that pattern that you created with the nose. And that is what's so electric, if you will, about alchemy and only breathing with the nose.
That's amazing. Thank you so much. You're like super knowledgeable on this, and I appreciate the information you're sharing. Yes, thank you so much, Devin, for sharing so many gems. I would like to see if we could open the floor for Jasmine to introduce herself. We have Diagria and Laura. If you have any questions, you'd like to introduce yourself, anything to chime in on, feel free.
Hi everyone, my name's Jasmine. Pleasure to be here. So I'm certified in the 3-part breathwork that Carol was mentioning. It's like holotropic breathwork. I found my way to this modality because, again, it was mentioned before. I work in a hospital, so you find that you're in stressful situations and you're not breathing, or like your ears into your shoulders, and you're like, oh my goodness, what's going on? So my journey for me started just wanting to learn how to breathe. I'm currently in school for Chinese medicine. My first appointment or first consultation with the Chinese medicine doctor, he looked at my face and he asked me, what are you grieving? And I was like, how does he know? So I was dealing with a lot of grief, and I didn't quite know how to breathe. So I sought out options for learning how to breathe, and I found my way to like singing. here in New York, there's so many different modalities that you can come across. So it's a blessing. But also being in the city is a hustle and bustle. So being more aware of my breath and slow breath work. I was introduced to pranayama first, and that really helped me with like breathing into the diaphragm. And I found that I was able to break through a lot of blocks, like because I did a lot of like inner work. I was able to break through a lot of blocks with the accelerated breath, that 3-part breath, where you feel like you're about to have a panic attack, and then you like bliss out. I was able to break through a lot of blocks with that, and I decided I wanted to get certified in it. So I think that the breath, again, is just like, it's such a transformative way to like, and I hope that in the future, like breathwork facilitators are able to even work in tandem with therapists in order to help therapists deepen a level of awareness for their patients at some point. You know, I think it'll work and complement therapy very well. If anyone has any questions about breath work, I'm here in the room for a few more minutes. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, well, I think we're definitely moving towards what you were talking about, Yasmin, in terms of integrating these type of practices in the Western traditional medicine world, if you will. I myself have been part of one study with suicide people, and a powerful mental breathwork exercise I gave them, even beyond just advanced techniques or whatever. The simplest thing that I shared to get everything started in this study was literally pay attention to the in and the out. I just literally had them literally saying that day by day, hour by hour, and just that simple mental breath work in itself. I'm inhaling, I'm exhaling, just literally that. And some of them literally showed beautiful results in literally 2 weeks of just that simple mental breathwork exercise beyond the actual quote-unquote techniques. And it goes to show that the involuntary and the involuntary synapses of our brains literally just come together all at once at a beautiful harmony when it comes to the breath, because the breath is so deep within the core essence of our whole being in terms of the psychological, the spiritual, the physical, every layer of our human resonance. And when you connect it with intention, it is a powerful tool. We're not too far from it, and I really hope to. I am part of that shift, and we're definitely going to see definitely more integrative medicine, if you will, when it comes to breath and Western things in this society, in this world that we live in. In the East, I know there's some hospitals that instead of medicating someone before doing specific surgeries, they have them om, and oming is now proving to quote unquote just lower blood pressure. Humming lowers blood pressure, because humming in itself, I talked about nitric oxide being built with the nose. When you hum, it also lowers blood pressure, and they find that as a more helpful tool instead of medicating people before doing specific surgeries. So I definitely see that shifting slowly over here. We already see it with even the IV drips. I look at that as an integrative medicine, if you will, and it's slowly changing, slowly but surely. And you can literally look up nitric oxide versus COVID. So it's funny that I've been preaching about the nose building up nitric oxide and the benefits it has, and now we're actually seeing it fight off COVID with nitric oxide treatment.
Wow, yeah, I really do hope within the institution that I'm in, the hospital that I work for, they're really trying a lot more integrative therapies, especially incorporating herbs And I'm hoping that even polyvagal therapy would be incorporated. I think that'll be like such a huge leap forward in everything, especially as you mentioned, that nitric oxide therapy. I really want to look into that. That's pretty awesome as well. Thank you so much, everybody.
You're welcome. Thanks for the ag Rita, if you would like to also chime in.
Good evening. Good evening. I'm Deidre. Thank you for allowing me to come into this space. I came across breathwork because for the past 10 years I have worked with survivors of DV and sexual assault. And so I came across breathwork because I had to have a space where I would get them to hear me. They had to hear me at some point. And very simply, I would just stop them, when they had space, and I would share with them the reason why they need to plant their feet, put their hands on their laps, on their knees, where they're comfortable, and inhale and exhale. And so I started this practice basically at in the shelter where I worked. And what I noticed is the clients that I had and the clients that weren't even mine, I noticed that they developed self-awareness and clarity. They reduced stress and anxiety levels. And so it became a practice even in the shelter. Like when we would start our meetings, we would go into breath work that I would guide. And so it's very interesting for me, because it's important, right? It's important that we are centered, are grounded. It's important that we come back to our breath, so that we can have clarity and release negative thoughts and be connected, to continue to do the work through our breath. So that's basically how I've used it in my own professional life.
Oh, that's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I think just to, go back to what we were just mentioning, that Devin mentioned, was how beautiful it is to now see that it's slowly trickling into so many different, areas in society, like little by little, especially now here in the Western world, which we've been so late, when it comes to all of these different healing modalities that really stem back to just more ancient, civilizations and things like that. And I just think it's beautiful to be here in the now and be able to experience that and see it happening slowly, and also be a part of it, be a part of that change. So Laura, thank you for being here. Feel free to speak.
Thank you for having me. It's been a little journey for me with my breath work. I had let me tell you how I literally just started doing it. Well, I had a little anxiety over working in corporate America. I worked at the upper management level and IT, and it was very stressful. So what I went to was little paint sip kind of things, just because a couple of my friends went, and I really enjoyed the painting. But I noticed that I had anxiety over that, which was weird because everybody's supposed to be having a good time, but I was having anxiety issues over it. And I discovered that I was thinking too much and not relaxing. I'm a little A-type, so I was trying to get things perfect, just by the way that I was cared for as a child. So when I decided I didn't want to continue to do that on just, every now and again, I decided to get some paint at home and just see what would come out, just kind of just doodle, and discovered that I found a technique of blowing paint, and I couldn't figure out why I couldn't blow the paint. It wouldn't move on the canvas. And I watched a few videos, and it seemed like a pretty easy thing to do. I practice yoga. I know that, how I'm supposed to breathe, which also helped me. But I realized that I hold my breath a lot. Like, I just literally just would hold my breath for anything. I would hold my breath driving. I would hold my breath waiting in line for something. Hold my breath, talking to my children or something. Just anything that would make me uneasy, I was holding my breath. And it was the paint that helped me come to that, because I couldn't understand why I couldn't move it on the canvas. And then I started researching more and more, asking my instructors with yoga, because we do some breath work in majority of my classes. And I started using those same methods with the paint. I would sit down at the table and I would practice different styles of breath work, a lot with the nose. So I'm so glad you spoke about that, because that explains a lot. I'm looking to actually do some more studies so I can have some more techniques under my belt. And what I discovered was that once I got a grip of breathing from my stomach and not my chest, which yoga taught me that, but for some reason I thought it was just in yoga. I don't know why, but I wasn't bringing it into my everyday life, hence the painting issue. So I started to do that, and then I started creating really great paintings, and I continued to do it. And then I got people who wanted to know, how I was creating these paintings. They knew I wasn't an artist, quote unquote. I just started doing some things, and it started to really heal me. I was being healed from a lot of different anxiety type things. Like I said, the job, the trauma, from dealing with those issues, and I just continued to do it. So I started developing this breath art and helping people move through their different challenges with giving themselves self-love, some self-care, working through various traumas in their life, using the breath with painting. And what it showed them was, after they created their artwork that was totally from themselves, I never show them a picture of anything. I just guide them, and I let them know that it's all of them doing the work. I'm just there as a guide, and they have a beautiful artwork at the end of their experience with the breath that they created from the inside of them, and they have something to look at to say, I did this, and everything that came up for them during the process of breathing and painting was the outcome in their creation. So that's pretty much how I got here.
Oh, beautiful. I like how you brought up the painting aspect of that as well. And I wanted to share something what I call color breathing. And it's very simple. Colors itself is universal, and the breath itself is universal too. Something you can simply do in terms of mental breath work in itself is, let's say Clubhouse. We're literally looking at the screen right now. It's mostly white, so I'm exhaling white healing energy. I'm inhaling white healing energy. And you can literally play around with that in many different ways you see fit. But I just wanted to share that real quick, and how universal color is, and the breath that follows us 24/7. And I would definitely love some feedback on some artists, because I've helped people in the art industry as well, and utilize it in that manner as well. And painting in itself is a meditative practice. And
It is.
Yeah. So it's beautiful to hear that you're incorporating the breath work in that manner as well. And I'm pretty sure you've gotten into a different state of awareness and trance while you're painting and you're doing the breath. That's very beautiful.
Yes, thank you. I'm going to utilize the color healing with the breath too. What you just said, that's really great. I would take them through the chakras and have. Well, I guess that is kind of color healing. I mean, think about it now. That I'm thinking out loud.
It is, and then when you're consciously doing it throughout the day, you're also, in a way, you're feeding more of your energetic body. And little do people know, anytime you open your eyes, your brain is breaking down literally what it's seeing, and color is one of the biggest aspects of it when it comes to psychology and the psychosis of how the brain works and functions with emotions and subliminal thoughts, if you will, that we create ourselves. So when you utilize the breath in that manner, you're also creating a contract with colors itself. Everywhere you go, you're going to have a better feeling, because you're creating that contract with the breath, because you know the breath isn't a lie. That's one. So you know you're exhaling, you know you're inhaling at the same time, and you're saying these affirmations with the color that you're actually seeing in that exact moment. And it gets you into, it just levels up your awareness, and I'm really just happy to share that.
Great, thank you so much. I appreciate that. It gives me another level that I can take it to.
And Laura, I just wanna thank you first of all for sharing all of that. And I just went on Laura's Instagram page, and I just love seeing all of the beautiful work that you do, and to be able to share, something that at first became a struggle for you, and now use it with your artwork and share that with others. That in itself is so commendable. So I urge people to just check out Laura's Instagram page just to see how beautiful, that beautiful artwork that she creates, so colorful, so vibrant, which says a lot about you. So thank you.
Thank you, Eve. I appreciate that.
And Sabrine, feel free to be up next. Introduce yourself. Any questions, anything to share? We're here to listen in.
Oh, hello everyone. My name is Sabrine, and I definitely was introduced to breathing work through yoga, and it's something that I incorporated quite a few years ago just to deal with the stress of life. I am a mother, I'm a single parent, I am an educator, and those are very, very stressful roles in many ways. I definitely got a lot of ideas in terms of things I need to look up more just from this conversation alone. But I would like to inquire, do you have any specific tools that you utilize when you are attempting to teach children breath work?
Yes, I do. Something simple I can easily share with you, getting them into it, would literally get these styrofoam cups, or it's called ocean breathing. It's very beautiful too. And you would have them put the cups on their ears and just literally just have them hear their breath go in and out, and literally sounds like an ocean, and it gets them into a meditative state as well. And it's a lot of fun when I teach kids, introduce them to breathwork in that manner. Definitely try that out.
Thank you, I will. I appreciate that.
And I see Richard is here. Feel free to share as well.
Hey, what's up, Eve? What's up, Devin?
What's going on?
The master himself is here.
Right? What a blessing. That's what I said.
For real. This guy changed my life. Forever. Just for everybody who's in here. I'm an artist. I'm an actor, performer. I've been an artist my whole life. I'm a writer, filmmaker, musician, and I cannot tell you how much this, breathing techniques have drastically changed every single one of my skill sets. Just amplified it from, being present to concentration to relaxation to emotional depth. I mean, the list goes on. Just, Devin, a lot of gratitude for you, my brother. And, I don't know, I guess all else I can say is the one thing that he gifted me, which was amazing, is that, and what I just picked up from him, watching him and paying attention to him, was there's so much that you can explore and, kind of find your own, method to the madness. individual is connected to the breath, and they all have their own sort of pace and rhythm depending on what it is they're doing, what it is they're inputting and outputting, and that's just like any other art form, really. So, yeah, that's what I was thinking.
I love that. I love that. And
Much
I would
love
like
to
to
you,
add,
brother.
yes, go ahead, Boy. I don't want to interrupt. I'm glad that you're joining. Thank you for being on here. Feel free to share.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for creating this space. It's definitely a blessing to share this with the legend himself. And I do have a question for you, my brother Devin. Obviously, your work is highly respected, and you're somebody that I look up to in this space. And correct me if I'm wrong, from my experience, about 70% of our body's waste is released through the breath. Give or take. So my question for you, brother, is which breathworks in particular would you say amplify them? Or are they essentially all fall in the same range with regards to moving that waste and detoxing from the body?
Alright, so, hey boy, honored to have you on here as well. Honored to have all of you on here. To answer your question, yes. If you look at where 70% of the blood is, it's located literally in the stomach area, and what pumps the blood around that area as well, that's located right there, is literally the lungs. To answer your questions of amplifying detox, that is why I focus more on the parasympathetic. You want to do breath work where you don't hold the breath too much or none at all, and breath work that really gets you to the state of sweating. That's one, too. Something simple as fire breaths. That's a great beginner step into it, but more like flame breathing that I'll publicly release soon on YouTube somewhere. But going back into that, when you, it's like starting up an engine. When you do breath work that gets you into the fight or flight system, what's actually happening is you're turning your immune system off and literally turning it back on again. Hence the cold start. And that type of breath work is really great in terms of cold exposure, back and forth, yes. But to a certain degree, at a certain point, it might, in a way, I feel like it's pushing the body way beyond the comfort zone / limit. But it's not even that. It's like overexerting the body. I remember this beautiful, really high intellect bodybuilder that I got to work with. He said, I got to this point not of exerting myself, but exercising itself, it's made to quote unquote stimulate the body. And stimulation is different from exertion. And exerting the body is going into the quote unquote fight or flight. And when you do that, just the idea of quote unquote turning your immune system off and then turning it back on again. In a way, it does get stronger in a sense, but why not really build on the core depth that is responsible for cleansing and detoxing, which is the parasympathetic? Why not really build on it, on the core in that aspect? And it's really interesting when I did the cold plunge up there in Jersey when I used to live up there with the guys. They were doing those type of breath work that got into the fight or flight, and I was paying more close attention on the parasympathetic. And some of them actually have been doing the fight or flight type of breath works for a long time. And when we got out the lake, everyone was hugging each other, and they were all like, "Man, you had the hottest body temperature of them all." And to be honest, I was still shaking. I didn't know what they were talking about, but I was still shaking, coming out that cold. So it's really interesting in that aspect too, because I really believe on core focus And the when you align your focus into the real depths of your core that is responsible for healing, you'd be surprised how farther you can go beyond quote unquote just stimulating the body and getting into fight or flight, because we're most of the day we're in fight or flight anyway when it comes to technology, blue light, you name it, cars honking back and forth. Most of that time we're in that. So I think it's, we're in this moment in time where we all deserve to slow our aging process down and really amplify healing to the point where we can really detox to a certain point where things don't really bother us too much, in the sense of toxins in foods or GMOs or whatever. And there was even a few clients that I've had that quote unquote had weak stomach in terms of digestion and things of that nature, and they themselves have been doing breath work that focuses on fight or flight. And when we switch it over more into the parasympathetic, which is quote unquote rest, digest, and going into the depths of that core, their digestion got better. There's even one guy who stopped taking vitamin C and he went to do blood work, and he had more vitamin C than he ever had before. The only difference was mainly the breath work in itself. So that goes to show you, not all breath work is alike, quote unquote. Some gets you to the point of imbalances where yes, you can get stronger in a sense, but it doesn't hurt to really go in the depths of what's responsible for it all in terms of the parasympathetic of healing. That's what you mainly want to focus on.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Thank you so much for that potent response. Give me tons of clarity and really helped me understand it a lot better. So just to follow up that question, with regards to cold exposure, obviously in the last 2 years, Wim Hof has really popularized that method. Obviously, we could trace it back to way longer before that. However, he's been the one to bridge it into the mainstream. So would you say that the Wim Hof method falls more into the fight or flight, or would you say it falls more into the parasitic system of things?
It definitely falls more into the fight or flight, in my opinion. But that's why it's called method, because the cold exposure is definitely needed within that method, so to speak. And it's very different doing Wim Hof in tropical areas and not doing any cold exposure versus doing the cold exposure with the Wim Hof method. I think it's if you are doing the Wim Hof method, it's very important to do the cold exposure with it, because the cold in itself, which is the main key, it gets you to a certain point in the body to really build up the immune system in that way as well.
If I could just chime in, I love that this is getting into the cold plunging. I started doing that not too long ago and found that so powerful. It allowed me to feel how powerful I am. It was unreal. I was like, wow, I could really do this and just sit here and focus on my breathing, just to my breath, kind of take my mind away from my body, and really just found myself realizing I'm just pure consciousness, at one point. And it's interesting because when I was in there and whenever I've done it, I've really just focused on slowing down my breath. And now that I realize, a lot of times I was often just breathing out of my nose, because like I said before, Devin, I found that to be the way for me to be able to really calm my body down. Now, what would your suggestion or advice be when it comes to doing cold plunges and the breathing? What's the best way to go about it?
Yeah, definitely more with the nose. If anything, that'll even make you more susceptible to the quote-unquote cold. And I got into this new practice where I'm standing on needles, and the needles, you really have to focus on your breath and less of the pain and the stories that we tell ourselves in that aspect. And when we think about the higher consciousness of thinking and being able to navigate and shift the focus, if you will, the closest thing to the brain is the nose, and you really want to pay more close attention to the nose. See, it's no coincidence, as you said, when you slowed your breath down, you were most likely breathing more out with your nose, and that helped you anchor in, if you will. But on the exhale, what we do in alchemy is squeezing the pelvic floor only on the exhales, not on the inhales. And Batuco, there's this practice of the scientist that went over into India himself and looked at different yogis and saw that some of them were doing a little bit too much on their bodies when it comes to like squeezing the pelvic floor on the inhale. And in actuality, the lungs expand more on the exhale than the inhale because the alveoli literally contract. So when you inhale and hold the breath, you're not really expanding your lungs too much. You're actually doing more damage in the long run. And I've had the pleasure of working with free divers themselves, and we focus more on the exhales, if anything. And then when it's time for them to hold their breath underwater, they don't do too much damage than they would have before. So it all comes down to the exhales, really. And the exhales, you literally have 100% communicative response in the body, because on the inhales, even the inhales themselves, it's not 100% you. It's part of a plan. It's part of whatever. And we're literally carbon-based beings. We're not oxygen-based beings. So when you build up carbon through the exhales and really focus more on them, the oxygen delivery will be way more efficient than you quote-unquote over-breathing in different manners, if you will. And the more carbon you have, the more oxygen delivery, and the less quote-unquote oxygen you need. I've literally helped people in terms of climbing up mountains where they don't even have to bring the oxygen tank anymore. It's all about efficient breathing.
Wow. You're just dropping some gems in here. Thanks so much.
Eve, I have to leave to go to another room, but I wanted to thank you all for all the great information, and I do want to be in touch with you, Devin, and send you a Instagram DM.
Yeah, I just followed you.
Oh, perfect. Yes. Great. I want to stay in touch with you because I do want to know how I can better, I guess, make this more business instead of, I can hook you up. Because right now it's mainly about my friends, family, and people that they know, businesses that, know me. I just want, because breathwork, they look at me like sideways when I talk about it. Especially when you talk about it with art. And I really wanted to figure out how I could get more traction in explaining it, or at least just dividing.
Bridging the two things
together? Well,
yeah.
So they're understandable, because people really give me the side head look when I talk about it. So I've narrowed down like a little, 10-second presentation, but because the breath is not really seen as something that they think is important, they think they breathe all the time, it's not until they go through it. So I do a lot of giving examples, of it. So just curious if this is even something that I can even monetize, but it seems like I can based off what you're doing, brother. You're making this your whole lifestyle, and everything that you're doing, it is, it's so instructional and it's healing. So that's pretty much what I want to do. So I want to be in touch.
For sure, yeah. Send me a DM.
Okay, we'll do. And thank you again, Eve. And you all have a great night.
You too. Thank you for joining us. Enjoy your night.
Thank you. You too.
I'll close it out here. It's heading to 10 o'clock.
Yeah, I think so. I think there was a lot of good information that was shared. Thank you so much, Devin, for giving us so much of what you've learned along the way and just sharing so much of yourself on here.
Yeah, no
Appreciate
problem.
that
Thank
so
you.
much.
Thank you
And
all
to
for sharing
everyone
the
else
breath.
that shared. Absolutely.
Thank you for having this. This was very informative.
Thank you.
For sure. Like Jay-Z said, 99 problems, but the breath ain't one.
I like that.
All
Gotta
right.
throw that for sure. Gotta throw that for sure.
Yeah.
I'm with it. I'll definitely rock that shirt.
I gotta type that in. I gotta type that in, boy. Thank you for popping that up.
Word, man. Let me know.